you here today?
I'm here to protect the kids and how I have the streets safer for when I have kids. Because I'm scared. Because I'm scared if anything's going to happen to me. Because being a white girl is really scary at this time. Loads of people call me racist for going to these, but I just want to be able to feel safe in my own community, and I just want to be able to walk the streets like my dad and my mum used to without a worry.
Not going to school at the moment. What's happening there?
People are calling me racist at school for going to the marches, and they're calling me far right. But the thing is, I'm not far right. I respect everyone's cultures, their religion, where they come from, and their background. I just want to be able to feel safe.
Well, we have an unfortunate situation in the West where the United Kingdom, Ireland, and other Western countries are being overrun by migrants to the point where young girls now feel the need to avoid school due to the amount of confrontation that they're receiving. And you heard it here from this young girl's own mouth. She says she respects all religions and respects all people. And unfortunately, that's a lesson that she's going to have to learn, comes with consequences. We have this story. Many more. Democrats are introducing a new app to track ICE and Border Patrol agents. They're prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens once again. We have these stories and many more. I'm Braden Sorbo, your host for today on The Rift. Well, yes, you might be wondering, where is Elijah? Why is Braden Sorbo sitting in the host chair with the white coffee bag and doing the things? And we have news. Elijah is out of town, but I am not alone in the studio today. Joining me is Rift TV contributor. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, say hi.
Hey, Michael Hennessy, Rift contributor. Very excited to be here. I think we have a great show. This is a topic that's affecting all of us. All Western nations being flooded by immigrants. People are scared to even walk down the streets, So great topic to touch on, and just excited for the show.
Yes, and joining us remote, you thought you got away from him, but he is still here. Elijah, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here remote. I have 2 words for girls who are walking the streets of Europe. Number 1, get one of these, but preferably in metal, in a different material, and one that shocks, electrocutes, perhaps maims and ends the life of people who are trying to harass you. And also a little word from my dad's desk here. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Lean on the Lord, but remember, there'll be a day coming where you need a sword and you'll need to strike your foe. And I think when it comes to these harassers of children, we need to do more than just be strong and courageous. We probably need to stone and imprison.
It's like the girl with the axe before. Remember, she had 2 axes in Ireland. Yeah, we need more of that.
We do. I mean, Jesus himself in the Gospel of Luke quite literally says, if a man has 2 cloaks, let him sell one and buy a sword. But before we get into this story and the others, I wanted to introduce in our last spotlight District Copper, trading under CAXPF in the US and DCOP in Canada, as a rising force in North America's critical mineral sector. District Copper is gaining traction in the critical minerals sector as the company has announced a strategic partnership with Reacher Gold LLC, a Nevada-based exploration firm focused on copper, gold, and silver. This is not just some basic, run-of-the-mill company. This is serious. The move aligns with the United States government's push to secure domestic critical mineral sources, including, but not limited to, copper, rare earths, and lithium, to bolster national security and supply chain resilience. Partnering with Reacher Gold, known for sourcing undervalued U.S. assets, it aims to fast-track development and unlock near-term production. With progress at Copper Keg, a U.S. listing, and this strategic partnership, District Copper is taking the market by storm. So thank you to District Copper for sponsoring today's video. Check the link in the description or go to districtcoppercorp.com for more on their U.S. partnership and future. Now back to the show. This is, I will say, a pre-recorded show for anybody watching. If you send a super chat and we don't cover it, that's exactly why. We will be covering the future super chats on the next show. But going back to the post we looked at the beginning, Michael Hennessy, Snowflake_News, says, being a white girl is scary at this time. Quote, I'm not far right, I'm not racist. I just want to be able to walk to school safely. Courageous young girl shares her fears of feeling unsafe in her own country. Isn't this amazing that this is where we're at as not even just a country, but a world? The West, which was colonized by Europeans, by settlers, we built society. is being overrun by countries that not only don't respect women, but don't respect anybody that is even remotely dislike them. And so what we're seeing is an overwhelming response to the point where you have young women who are finally standing up. And my hope is that it's not too late, but we are getting to the point where deportations aren't going to be an answer anymore. What do you think?
Well, we're seeing, as he's mentioned, all across the West. And the sick part is that our government's actually allowing this to happen. You know, there was a story that came out in Sweden. There was a 16-year-old girl who was actually raped by an illegal immigrant. And the court decided that the rape wasn't long enough for it to be, worthy enough to kick him out of the country. So, I mean, it just shows you the type of thinking that these people have. They rather put, the illegals in front of anybody else in these countries. But I believe it's all by design. You know, we always talk about the great replacement theory. That is, I believe it is absolutely true. We're seeing that, and I hope an end comes to it, but I don't see anything happening in sight.
No, I don't either.
Yeah,
And go ahead, Elijah.
real fast. I just wanted to say, BBC released a report that I thought was really interesting. This is going to shock everybody, but this was just released a few weeks ago, that there was a staggering increase in the reports of rape and attempted rape in Scotland, up 15% this year alone. So that's staggering. Now, I don't remember if it was I think it's out of 1,000 or out of 10,000 or 100,000. I don't remember the exact statistic at the end, but the beginning statistic out of a certain group, Japan was seen as having one out of that many per year experiencing rape or attempted rape. And we're also not talking about Me Too. We're not talking about, girls get drunk and they're upset, or, somebody touched someone and, they said they didn't want that touch or whatever, and it was confusing. We're talking about unprompted, unsolicited strangers, in buses, on streets, in alleyways, sort of just like subjugating women. So that number is about 25 to 30 out of that said number for the UK, which actually only was about 2 to 3. It was only about 2 to 3 times more 15, 20 years ago. The UK was more dangerous than Japan, and now it's 25 to 30 times more dangerous for women than Japan just 15 years later. So when you're talking about 15 years having a 2,500, 25 to 30 times more increase in danger for sexual assault for women, and you're also talking about just this year in Scotland a 15% increase. I mean, these women have every right to be afraid, because the men aren't doing anything to stop it. If there's no legislation that's stopping these migrants, and if these migrants are, again, I believe it's higher. They're not even recording the crimes. They're not even publishing the crimes. There's a coordinated effort to stop the publishing of the crimes. I wouldn't let my daughter walk around, and I don't let my wife walk around at night, not even in our country, because we have the same problem.
We do, and it really is a shame. We're witnessing what I would argue is the greatest cuckoldry of any nation in the history of the world. We are giving up land and women because the alternative is to be mean to these people. The alternative is to just, no, you don't belong here, go home. I wanted to touch first on the subject that you were touch appropriately with consent, obviously, the subject that you brought up, Maya, who, the 16-year-old Swedish girl, Maya Bjorg is her name, and she worked at McDonald's, and this happened last September. She finished her shift at McDonald's. It ran a little bit late, and so she missed the bus going home. On her walk home, she passes through a pedestrian tunnel and encounters Yazif Mohammed, who, if you can't tell, that's not a native Swedish name, just like not a native name. He is an Eritrean migrant, a refugee, who, like you mentioned, assaulted her in the tunnel. The prosecutor, he was arrested and sentenced to 3 years in prison. The prosecutors in the case demanded that he also be deported. They said this is a heinous crime, shouldn't have happened to a Swedish citizen. Sweden, by the way, unless the number has changed, is the rape capital of the world. More rapes occur in Sweden than any other country in the world right now. And so this is just one of many stories. But the 16-year-old gets raped. They go to the court. The police arrest Mohammed. They throw him in jail for 3 years. The prosecutors are like, why are we putting him in jail? He's just going to go back out onto the street and do it again. That's what they do. We want him deported. And the Court of Appeals denied the request for, quote, rape is a serious offense, but the duration must also be considered. So if you're a two-pump chump, or maybe it's just the tip or something, apparently to the Swedish Court of Appeals, that's okay. As long as you don't, go. What message does that tell the young women in the world today. If you get assaulted, let it happen for as long as possible, because if it's too short, you know, he'll come do it 3 years later when he gets out of jail. This girl
Wait, wait.
will
So
have to see him.
you're saying Joey would never get accused of sexual assault or rape because if they don't last a long time, it doesn't count. Hey,
What if it happens
that's
to
crazy.
Joey? You know, what if it happens to Joey too? That's also possible. You never know.
Well,
But
you
yes,
have to
Well-
report it and not like it.
it's true. You do have to report it and not like it. But yeah, that's where we're at right now, and that's where cases that these little girls are
yeah,
seeing.
yeah. Hashtag for Joey. No, but we're seeing that also in the U.S. as well. I think it was a couple months ago when they were voting in California, saying, you know, what would be the reason why they should be able to deport people. And the Democrats actually voted against an illegal that committed crime as well as sexual acts. They were saying, no, we can't deport them because of this, that they need to have, you know, a different type of process. So almost all Democrats in that area voted against it. Like, no, let's keep them here. You know, if they're trouble, if they're violent, if they're causing sexual abuse, no problem. Keep them. That's what we want. So it just shows you where our leaders are at, how they're thinking. They're not worrying about the American people, just like in Sweden. They're not worrying about, you know, the Swedish or any of these other countries. What it is it's a plan to go ahead and just pile in as many as they can, so everybody's different, and then it's easier for us to be controlled. And whatever crime comes in the way, they really don't care.
Yeah, you know, they voted in California on legislature to criminalize, if I'm not mistaken, anal and oral rape, and they voted against it. They're like, if you rape someone via the mouth or the butt, that's okay. Just not regular rape. That's rape. You're not allowed to do that. So they decriminalized anal and oral rape. And then Katie Porter, the lady running for, I think she's running for governor, right? She's running to take Gavin's seat. She said that pedophiles shouldn't be criminalized because it's you know, it's oppressive to them. So I'm really confused, because for like the past year, the Democratic talking point has been Trump's a pedophile because he's in the Epstein files. But now prominent left-wing Democrats are going, well, you know, calling people a pedophile is a mean thing and we shouldn't be doing that. So where's the consistency?
Yeah, no, there's not. And we remember even, I think it was like a couple years ago when there was like rumors or talk that they were trying to add in the pedophilia into the whole LGBTQ plus Z, Y, X, whatever the hell it is. You know, thank God there was pushback.
Maps.
Yeah, maps. So thank God that was pushed, that got pushed back. But I don't know. It seems like our country and many others, they like to protect these child predators. I mean, even right now, I believe that there is more information related to Epstein, and the government's covering that up as well. So, you know, children are the one thing that we're supposed to protect. I mean, even when people go to jail, people commit horrible crimes, but if you touch a child, we all know that, like, you do that, then you're going to get repercussions.
That's a sentence.
Yeah, but unfortunately, well, no, they leave in
It's a
in
death
jail.
sentence in jail, I
In
mean.
jail,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, we need to be able to protect the children. We can't continue to allow this to happen. But, you know, what they want to do is they just want to keep flooding in all these illegals. They want to keep flooding in, you know, because the people we're not even vetting them. We don't know who's coming into the country, and they can care less.
No, it's insane. And thankfully, there is a little bit of pushback. It's really interesting to see, because I have a video pulled up of the, I think it's Ireland. There's a protest?
Yes. In Ireland, I believe it was either a 10 or a 13-year-old girl. 10. She went by you know, migrants, I like to call them illegal invaders. But she walked by one of the facilities and she was, you know, attacked. And pretty much nothing was done about it. So now in Ireland, people are taken to the streets. And for the past few days, they've been protesting, you know, saying we need to get these people out of our country. And this is the same country, if I'm not mistaken, they had the leader of it, who was like an Indian guy there for a little bit. And he was saying that the country's too white. So it just the way these people are thinking, just the mindset is crazy. And I'm
I think
happy
that might have been Scotland.
It was
That might have been
Scotland?
Scotland, but
Okay.
it's still technically like Britannia, right? We're still talking about
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't consider themselves British, maybe in some degrees, but I did want to add something. You know, because Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and England are pretty much united. The amount of cover up of what's going on here is insane. So I don't know if you remember, but an NGO did a backup investigation into the sexual mistreatment of minors and women in the country. Now, a lot of people don't have a stomach to prosecute sexual crimes, and I actually believe the Me Too movement wasn't meant to correct sexual crimes. I think it was actually meant to prepare us to not prosecute migrant crimes, because everyone's so sick of hearing about it. You know, it's like, oh, you got sexually assaulted or you got raped. The average person's like, what happened? You know, is this a Russell Brand situation? You're doing drugs in the house and you're like naked in bed, and, you know, right as it's about to slip in, you say no, you didn't say no, but you felt no. And then it's like, okay, well, everyone's like, dude, this is just getting out of hand, right? So now everyone hears sexual assault and rape and they're just like, okay, yeah, Is this another Trump case? Is this like what guy is famous hasn't been accused of something like this?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this like apathy that's in the crowd, and I think that was designed on purpose because there is real assault, there is real rape, there is real intentional harming of women, and that's evil and it's horrible, and it should be condemned. But one of the NGOs actually did this famous, I remember, investigation called the rape crisis of England and Wales, and you know that they are working to not tell you the truth because the title of the study that came out was rape and sexual assault statistics, who's behind the crisis, and then it puts in parentheses, it's not who you think it is.
Oh,
So it's like
wow.
they're like, it's not who you think it is. And you're like, wait, who was I thinking it is? So they already did the research to prevent this, already, to like downplay migrant crime, right? You know what I'm saying? You see that there was this sense, and I mean you can read that, by the way, at rapecrisis.org.uk, but it's like, you know, when they're saying like 1 in 4 women has been sexually assaulted since 16, this is that same statistics that they also use to downplay migrant crime. So like when you go to a college, they're like, you know, 1 out of 3 of you gets raped or sexually assaulted. And then their definition of it is like, you know, you were both drunk and then you had sex, you couldn't consent and he could. So of course you have a bunch of women who had sex drunk, and then they're like, wait a second, I was drunk having sex, I got raped. And then it like adds like another like 50% more rapes into the case. And so then now it's like, oh well, everybody basically gets raped. It's not like migrants are unique. You know, this is how they get it. The majority of rapes are happening by English guys, by Welsh guys. And it's like, well, what were those rapes? Oh, it was they were drunk. They were both drunk, but she couldn't consent because she was drunk too. Well, how is he not getting raped? And you realize that like they're intentionally adding in more rapes, more assaults, and changing the threshold for assault so they can keep the reprise that the effective perpetrators are predominantly the people from that country. That was a famous study that showed that they're intentionally trying to water down migrant crime. It's like white guys aren't just grabbing girls by the neck with a machete, holding them down in alleyways and sodomizing 10-year-olds. Like it happens. Yeah. It happens. And yet, again, a lot of that stuff of white, you know, pedophilia stuff happens in the home between families or things. That happens. That's true. We're not going to downplay that. But what we're fighting against is not just assault in general. It's, can I walk down the street, right? What if I have a good home and I come from a good family? Can I still go down the street? Do I have a good street? And because they're putting migrant homes and facilities in nice cities, in nice places, like we found out in Boca Raton, they're putting a bunch of, Breland Hollyhans type of parents, not them directly, putting a bunch of Section 8 housing in these nice neighborhoods. They're forcibly integrating people into once safe areas and making it so that our history, our culture is broken, and we can't let our kids walk. And it's like, well, what's the point of society if the statistics are manipulated, the police selectively enforce, and when you try to do something about it, the government says you're the bad guy for trying to keep kids safe. I don't know, man. I've been studying this stuff for years, and I have found it's intentional, and they want your kids raped and killed. That's what they want.
That's literally, I mean, it sucks how simple it is to realize, and at the same time, at least it's a simple solution, and we realize, okay, because what was it? El Salvador is going to be able to reduce the amount of child trafficking to basically zero, except for when parents do it, because that you can't preemptively stop parents from taking their kids and doing terrible things to them, but you can certainly stop strangers from snatching children off the street. You can stop African migrants from taking 10-year-old girls who are walking home they don't know better. They're not thinking, oh, there's a town full of Africans, I'm just going to walk by that, I'm going to avoid that area. They're not taught that. I mean, you can definitely teach your children to be wary of certain people, but like how far does that go for such a small child? And so here's the video of the Irish response. Finally, people are waking up. The crazy thing about this is this stuff happens, and then obviously the Muslims who go into the city, they go in and they persecute anybody who isn't Muslim, so they're going to target, Buddhists and Christians and everything. And then there will be certain groups of people, typically people who live in Boca Raton, who will be like, look at us, we're being targeted, and they're going after us. We need to stop this. And it's like, well, who was responsible for bringing all of these people in? Who runs the NGOs that funds this? Who causes wars that displaces all of these individuals so that they have to seek refuge in other countries? Like, how far up the line of command, the chain of command, do you really want to go before people aren't allowed to ask questions anymore? And that's what we're seeing. And it's to the point where the police in Ireland and Scotland and the United Kingdom as a whole, like all of Britannia, are literally stopping the citizens from doing things more than they are the migrants. Because if your skin color matches, or you have an accent, or your head is shaped like a light bulb, you can commit crimes. Like I'm going to be going to Europe very soon. I'll be going to France, staying in Paris. I'll be going to Rome, gonna go to the Vatican, go to mass and everything. But I'm going to have to watch out because I'm going with my mom and sister. I'm going to have to make sure that they're safe, that they're not around these people, because I've seen how violent I know how violent they get. I don't want to deal with that. And they've now ruined the places that I was able to once link cultural heritage to. And that's just disappointing.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time that Ireland's actually protested against this. They've done it before. We've seen when they were going to the different facilities and protesting against having all the illegals come in. And then the way the news would portray it is like these far extremist right-wing people are being destructive and they don't understand what Ireland is. And it's like, no, they understand what Ireland is. They want Ireland to be exactly what it should be, and which is majority the Irish, not Africans, not Indians, not any of the other ones. We want the country to stay what it's supposed to be, and it's not happening. I mean, it's even to the point now in some countries, which we have other videos we can show later, but they're even targeting people for showing the national flag. I think that was in the UK, where they're showing the national flag and they're telling them, well, this is making migrants feel, or illegal invaders, I'm going to just keep calling them that. This is making illegal invaders feel uncomfortable showing your own flag. So not only can you not feel safe walking in the streets, but now you also have to say, okay, if you're going to show your national flag, that this is some sort of disrespect towards those who are occupying the country. And I swear our ancestors would be just rolling around in their graves if they could see where we are as a nation. We're everybody's, all the land they fought for and everything they did, just going to waste.
Oh, the founders would be pissed. You know what they wouldn't be pissed about is our sponsor, Blackout Coffee, a company that embodies the heart of American values. It's a family-owned business that began 7 years ago in a garage, and today they've earned over 32,000 five-star reviews on their premium bold coffee. Blackout Coffee isn't just about exceptional taste, okay? They're staunch supporters of the Second Amendment, standing firm for freedoms, and for 10 seconds, allow me to share my personal take. Look, I'm not a big coffee guy, but I did sample it. I did give it a taste. I gave it a try. And as someone who doesn't drink coffee, who doesn't like the taste of coffee, I was pleasantly surprised. I was very impressed. Okay, it is makes a great gift, makes a great morning. Maybe you don't want to do energy drinks or something. This is a phenomenal solution. I know Hennessy has the other one, which is the light roast that gets pulled over for no reason at all. Based on the color of the bag. It's rich, smooth, and crafted by good people. It was coffee and shit. It was coffee and shit. By good people who share our commitment to what makes this nation great. Okay, it's my go-to brew to fuel the day. If you're ready to support a company that delivers quality and principle, visit blackoutcoffee.com/RIFT. You can look at the link right there. Use the code RIFT for 20% off your first order. That is blackoutcoffee.com/RIFT. Now back to the topic. We were talking about Ireland and the citizens being deprioritized, right? They're taking the citizens and they're putting them as second class to these migrants. Right. And there's a video from Wall Street Apes where citizens are now being put into a lottery because the schools are being filled with illegals. By illegal invaders, the schools are being filled. This is why anything government funded ends up crashing and burning, because the government begins to slowly corrupt. They begin to get bought out, and then they do things like this. Look at this.
My own child in his own local school, I was told that there's only so many spaces, and first of all, diversity kids have to be picked, then the Ukrainian children will be picked, and then the local Irish children whose parents were born and reared and probably their uncles, their brothers, their sisters went to this school, are put into a lottery system for the remaining places.
Do you think this is unfair?
My own child in his own...
Well, yeah, I think it's unfair. What the hell? You look like you were about to say something.
No, it's just crazy. I mean, the fact that they're allowing the illegal invaders to come in and actually pretty much give them priority over everything. We're seeing that with the housing. You know, they're helping with funds, so this way they can make sure that they stay in different areas. So, for instance, I seen where hotels are being paid up to a couple years in advance to keep the illegals in the hotels, and what they're doing is they're making, you know, in Ireland, the Irish are like not even second class citizens; they're like the fifth class citizens. Like they're putting them at the bottom, and they're putting everybody in front of them, and it's this insanity of what's happening.
You know what, Brandon? I was going to say, you know, one of the things people say that things are being over exaggerated, but you know, in terms of what's really going on, it's not about deprioritization of the natives. It's about creating a sense of betrayal so that you feel completely disassociated from any political hope towards a solution for your issues. If you read Agenda 2030 in the United States, after they said that their goal was to put a president in that lost the confidence of the people, that they would hope to then run the government from the back end of unelected bureaucrats, which is what we call the deep state. It's sort of their goal. And that you would feel like, which is why it's interesting with Trump that we're saying with MIGA and his prioritization of Israel over the United States as well, there's a constant set that your government is looking out for other people above your own. And so you feel what a lot of Americans are feeling right now, which is we're never going to vote our way out of this. Now, this makes you detached from the system, and it gives these people more control to consolidate power within the system. You know, a good example of that is, you know, sexual harassment cases in Ireland are up 35% since the end of the pandemic, right? So that's interesting. Now, when you ask any type of AI that's programmed with woke technology like Google AI, like why that's happening. And they say it's attributed to increased public awareness, greater victim confidence, and a higher reporting of historical abuse cases rather than an increase in incidents in the current year. So, you know, even AI, who's supposed to be intelligent, is programmed to make you feel like you can't find the truth. That's why, you know, we've been using uncensored.ai. That's a great platform that actually tells you the truth about what's going on. It doesn't have restrictive parameters. It's a great resource. Again, it's uncensored.ai. They're sponsoring the speech tonight that Sarah is speaking at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. If you guys want to go, you know, maybe you missed it, but we also have another speech in Clemson next week. Totally forgot about that, but got to go do that amongst many other things. However, I wanted to say, you know, it is interesting that you feel like you can't want you to give up, right? They want you to give up on any type of fight. It's demoralization. I have to
Mm-hmm.
say though, you know, there was a tweet from Seth Dillon, and I thought it was interesting because Seth Dillon is one of these guys who sort of plays a role in the cabal, right? So he's an establishment gatekeeper. He talks a lot about policing and keeping sort of this Zionist hegemony that allows unrestricted immigration, and then by the way, they'll restrict immigration under Trump, but they'll still serve the interests of Israel over the United States. So even when you get a little bit of what you want, they still deprioritize the native people and prioritize something else. So we get restricted immigration at the behest of spending billions of dollars on wars overseas, bombing Iran, right? Continuing to allow the occupation of land at our expense. It's a very, very dark thing. But Seth, in and of himself, had mentioned about actually, you know, I guess killing us in some regard. He was just threatened to death, which I thought was really weird. Some people got arrested. But what was funny is that, you know, Seth Dillon, Laura Loomer, and I forget Josh Hammer, three, you know, pretty talented Jewish individuals were given death threats. Now, the Jewish Attorney General in Florida prioritized this because they were Jewish, and then went ahead and found the guy, used resources. I believe the FBI got involved. I might be wrong there. And they found the guy who made these death threats, which, by the way, are a much lower degree to the death threats against myself and many others, including people like Charlie Kirk, who were not prosecuted. But they got the entire state attorney general, the federal bureaucracy fighting for them and trying to find their killer, which they should have, by the way. They should be doing this for all people. So like I'm not against it. I'm glad they caught the guy threatening them. That's a good thing. But my point is that if you're white and you're Christian and you're being, you know, threatened for being white or Christian or right wing, The government doesn't care about you here. They won't fight for you. They won't look at who's trying to kill you or who's trying to attack you for the most part. I've reported things to the FBI. They do nothing. They don't. They're just like, all right, thank you, whatever. Talk to the police. Good for you. But if you're like Jewish and you get threatened for being Jewish, then they will use all of their money and resources. Now that's a deprioritization in the country because this country is primarily white, primarily Christian. And when you tell the founding stock of the country that you know, your life being threatened is less problematic than a Jewish person's life, what you're doing is setting up a hierarchy of that Jewish people are more important than white people, that the Jewish faith is more important to preserve and save than Christianity. And that's sort of what we see around the world is whether it's migrants, whether it's, Muslims, whether it's Jews, our governments are working for them, right? They're working on behalf of a smaller select group of minorities. But if you're white and you're Christian, then the government is working against you by either A, directly looking out for interests that are interfering with your safety, or B, not giving you access to resources, scholarship money, your roads being fixed in your neighborhood, as we saw with FEMA skipping over all white neighborhoods to work on minority neighborhoods, or skipping over Republican neighborhoods to work on liberal neighborhoods during the floods in South Carolina. I think it was one of the Carolinas. Anyways.
It was North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. That's the sort of mentality that you're seeing across the board. And I think that we need to realize that, people that are utilizing that are taking advantage of that, are just as bad as the people that are putting those policies into place, and people that are boasting about it, that are mocking it. And Seth Dillon to have the audacity, like a few days later, after someone trying to kill him, calls people like myself cancer, calls us tumors, and says we need to be killed. That's what he says. We need to kill the cancer. And so he hints at and suggests that something very dark and nefarious to happen to people like me while using my tax dollars and my government to help his small minority of people, all while mocking us and talking about how he's gatekeeping and, they're winning, they're keeping control. They're going to continue to do this. People like me are disenfranchised. We're very upset. And I don't think we're going to sit around for a long time and just let this happen. And that's what you're seeing in Ireland is people are sort of saying, who cares if you burn a cop car? Because that cop car doesn't work for me. It's like, oh, you're burning your police car? No, that cop works for them. He's not on my side. It's the same reason black people burn cop cars here too, because they feel like the judicial system is against them. So they're like, I don't care about that, right? And they know it's not their taxpayer dollars. Black people aren't paying taxes to pay for that cop car. It's not coming from their neighborhoods. That's some white person's tax dollars trying to keep their city safe. So that's how we're starting to feel a little bit. But except for the difference between us and blacks is that is our tax dollars. We're still paying for it. It's just not working for us.
No, that's the crazy part is we're paying for our own demise. I mean, there was a study that just came out from the Netherlands. They said on average, white people contributed, throughout the course of their life, like 500,000 of their currency, $500,000, $500,000 to the economy. They contribute a lot of money to the economy, and that didn't count for what they paid in taxes. It didn't count for what they bought with but just regular everyday spending. Regular people from the Netherlands contributed a lot to the economy, and then Somalian migrants took over $1 million of their currency per person. Like it was insane. And yeah, I will say the reason why in Asheville, North Carolina, they skipped over the white neighborhoods or the Trump sites is because the minorities and the liberals couldn't build anything for themselves, so they needed to get the help first. The white people were going to be self-sufficient and build it anyways, so they figured that they could just skip us, which is still wrong, but it's funny that they're willing to unintentionally admit that.
Mm-hmm. Part of it was political views too. I mean, the whole seeing the Trump sign, you had the one lady who got in trouble for saying anytime you see a Trump sign in the yard, make sure that you skip past it. Don't worry about going to that house. So they are prioritizing. FEMA is a terrible organization.
Oh, yeah.
All the way around. They've come out with crazy laws where it's hard for people to actually rebuild their homes. A lot of people have to build up to a second story because they only get about $100,000 to work on the lower level, which a lot of these homes, especially here in Florida, they cost a lot more than $100,000. So FEMA has crazy laws like that. And we already know FEMA's already been caught lying in the past. I mean, everything from holding fake press conferences when Bush was in office to many other things that they've done, helping helping put funds towards putting illegal immigrants into, just different hotels, making sure that they're getting the funding, like in New York City and all these other areas. So FEMA is very corrupt, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And the only reason that black chick was put in front of it is because she checked the DEI boxes. Just like the lady, Dominique Buffin, the security guard at the Louvre, that was just robbed. You know that?
I seen your video, yeah.
Yeah. She, friggin', for anyone who doesn't know, the Louvre, the biggest museum in the world, which sits in France, hundreds of millions of dollars of art is inside of that. And a couple guys, this is coming after September when Dominique Buffin, the first ever female security chief, was installed by the museum's first ever female director, literally put a ladder up, scaled the walls, threatened the guards with power tools, and in French fashion, they immediately surrendered and stole like $80 to $100 million worth of equipment. There is something to be said.
They did it with power tools?
They literally did it with power tools.
They have like a drill or something?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. The guards came up and they went, and they were
Oh
like,
my God.
We surrender. And then the guards will prosecute the white girl who gets raped because she called the migrant a bad word, the one who raped her. But that's, like, there is a prioritization. And I wanted to really quickly talk what Elijah said, where, people like Seth Dillon and they're getting these priorities, they're getting put first before everyday Americans. And it's not a bad thing that people who are saying bad things to people, like saying, I hope you die or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you're credibly threatening a political person, a pundit, a known figure's life. That, you know what I mean? There deserves to be a little bit of, all right, we need to investigate this. But when you're blatantly skipping, like, just as an example, my mom runs an organization called the Parents Demanding Justice. And what it does is it works with the DOJ to help parents who are disproportionately affected by the school boards, by the counties that are, like, for example, there was a kid who was assaulted by a teacher, not sexually but violently, like hit by his teacher. They tried to sue the school and the county went after them. The county sent people to the father's house. The county attacked the father, right? Intimidation tactics. She goes to the Department of Justice and nothing happens. Benny Johnson gets a single death threat from somebody, and he's at the White House with Pam Bondi. And it's not discrediting Benny Johnson. Like, he's a very public figure, and I understand that people are genuinely want him dead. They want me dead, and I'm a nobody, right? So I get it. But we also have to be a little bit consistent, where it's like, okay, this father had his son assaulted by a teacher, and then himself has been assaulted and has been stalked and sued and attacked, and nothing is happening. All it would take was the White House going, stop. Or we're going to pursue action against you. And pretty much everyone would cave. Litigation against, the Department of Justice isn't something people want to go up against.
Yeah.
But they won't even do that. And it makes you wonder why. But I pulled up a video. I don't remember when this happened, but this happened in Canada, because I wanted to point out this isn't just in Europe. This isn't just in, some of the Western brother countries that we have. This is in North America. This is a Pakistani migrant who was an Uber driver. And he picked up these women, and listen to what he says.
Well, if you was born in Pakistan, originally from Pakistan, you must have been kidnapped by me.
You've been kidnapped by you?
Of course. Because there is no option to get you, right?
Okay. You have your women over there, though.
Seriously. So you are in Canada, so I cannot say you anything.
Okay.
I cannot touch you anything, because it is Canada.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely you couldn't touch me. There's laws to this shit here.
You know what I mean?
That's not that flattering. It's kind of scary.
Trust me, because, there was no option.
Okay. Well, you have a good night.
You too, thank you.
Bye, Shababoom.
She has the power to vote, and there are women just like her in America who are like, that's actually kind of scary. He just said that if you were in his home country, he would kidnap and rape you. And you're like, that's a little bit scary. You're a weird guy. You're a funny individual.
Oh, God.
But it's happening here. It's literally happening in the United States, in Canada, in North America. People like this are getting into the country. You know what they do when they get mass numbers. This is what they do. They tell you who they are.
Yeah,
They're founded on a religion of a 54-year-old man that married a 6-year-old, but he waited till she was like 7 or 8 to consummate the marriage, because obviously sexual maturity is important to them.
Oh my God. I mean, this just shows you the mentality of the people who are coming in. They had one also in Bradford where a Pakistani man, he tried to rape a 13-year-old girl. And then when he was confronted, his wife actually came out to defend him, saying, he didn't know that was illegal to try to have sex with this 13-year-old girl. So it shows you really the mentality that these people have.
I pulled the video up if we want to show people. This is exactly what reminded me. It's this idea of, well, we didn't know that it was wrong. It's crazy.
How old? 4 years old? Yeah. So why are you doing this when you've got a 4-year-old child yourself?
Very sorry.
Sorry, it's not
Very sorry.
We're going to have to call the police, okay?
Call the police. Call the police for me, please.
I am very sorry.
So, unfortunately.
I am further English, I know, understand.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
Yeah. Better English, neighbour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain that we're going to be calling the police. He is going to be arrested today. Okay.
Next time I lost one. Now Google everything. Google is now.
I'm wife.
Yeah, it goes on a little bit more, but it basically, she comes out and she starts to defend him, saying, okay, he didn't know it was wrong to rape this 13-year-old girl. So these are the types of people we're bringing in, you know, and we're allowing them to pollute our country. We're saying that they deserve to be put in front of anybody who's, you know, originally from the country. And it's just sickening and disturbing to see this type of behavior. But we have to remember, in their country, this is the type of stuff that they engage in. So their culture, I find that to be very sickening. I don't think anybody should touch a child in that way. I'm very much against it. And then to bring them here and say these are the types of people we want is just, it's absurd.
No, you can't have a high trust society and those people. It's completely incompatible. There's no other way to say it. And unfortunately, in today's day and age and climate, that makes you, you know, racist, xenophobe, homophobe, or, you know, homophobe, because they are touching little boys too. But it makes you all of those things. And yet I don't care. I want these people who worship sand demons out of my country. Remember yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever was that Indian holiday, and the White House accounts are posting it, Dwilly or whatever.
Oh yeah, Trump even lit like candles and everybody, Canada got in on it.
Stunk.
Or Australia.
My gosh.
Yeah,
all these countries were just going like, we just love they're all equal. They worship fake gods that assaulted people. Like this is not a sane society. Why are we putting up with this? How does it benefit us in the slightest?
Yeah, it's definitely not helping us at all. It's not. Once again, it happened. This is all pre-planned. As Elijah said, we're seeing them change the way we view, you know, what rape is. They're trying to alter that. We're also seeing crime statistics being changed. So they're always showing, even if it's someone of a different nationality, it's white people. I think a lot of it is to pollute our country, so this way they can come in, and if we're divided, it's easier to control us. I also think this is something that they're doing as well, so then once things get to an extreme, like we're seeing with you know, a lot of the black crime that's going on, they're allowing it to continue. They're making all these laws to protect them and to get them out on bond, you know, really fast, is because eventually we're going to run into a police state as well. So after they've brought in enough people, we feel divided, then we're going to see things like Palantir and all these other companies come in, which I just seen Amazon's hooking up with them with their doorbells. But I think this is part of the whole plan, to get that police state, and then also to destroy any kind of heritage, anything that we have that unites us, and this way they get full control.
Yeah, you know what is good?
Yeah, real fast. I got to jump in here for a second because I just want to say, you know, what's happening in America, kind of tying this, because a lot of people don't really care what's happening in other countries. But, you know, Seth Dillon, you know, did use the language that, you know, to the woke right, to people who are not obsessed with Israel, right? That's all it really is. Like, if you want to say, what is the woke right in these sort of establishment eyes, it's really simply like young white Christian men primarily who are not obsessed with the Judaistic religion. They're not obsessed with the Israeli government. They're more obsessed with establishing a Christian nation here in America, and obsessed with the Christian values and the nation of America, right? Of the United States of America. And, you know, a lot of people have been calling them out and saying, you know, like, you know, whether it's the Muslim migrants, whether it's Zionists, like, we need to stop prioritizing minorities. We need to get back to what? We don't want to demoralize people. We want to say we're trying to positively get back to a country that upholds Christian values. We're trying to get Ireland back to being a Catholic Ireland, right? We're trying to get these countries back to where we don't tolerate the intolerable. We don't bring in religions that want to persecute us. We don't bring in men who want to assault our children. We don't bring in things that are antithetical towards a Christian nation of strength and of beauty. And you don't have to be a Christian. It's not, I mean, you know, there's been plenty of people who are not Christians who've done mighty things in our nations, but they've always respected the ethos of God, of the morality of Christ, and what it means, right? Like, even like the Dolce and Gabbana. designers, which we saw last time, that they're Catholic and their faith has inspired their high design and high fashion. And just like the cities that they do their fashion shows in Italy, which were built from the respect of God. I mean, might I remind you, even the pagans still respected gods, right? They still had an idea of something greater or bigger than them. However, Joel Berry, there's this demoralization campaign to continue to isolate particularly young white Christian men, which is very weird because the liberals were doing that for a long time. They're still doing that in Europe, and they still do it here. But it's weird to watch the right establishment become liberal, right? To become libtards themselves and to sort of become anti-Christian, anti-white. It's not that you have to be, a white supremacist or a white identitarian, but, you have to see the dangers if you have white children, if you yourself are white, of people like Joel Berry from the Babylon Bee, people like Seth Dillon, who are writing propaganda as if they're receiving, $7,000 in their bank account, but they're receiving a lot more, right? They're not just receiving $7,000 to attack us. They're receiving access, right? Their company's receiving financing from advertising like, Daily Wire or other pro-Zionist organizations. And these people are sort of, selling their soul for money. They're selling out your birthright for opportunity. There's a lot of that's what's happening in our countries. There's betrayal because the Bible says in the last days that people are going to do evil and say that it's good, right? So they're going to do what's wrong and claim that it's good. And there's going to be many people confessing his name that are false teachers, that are liars, that are deceptive, and they're not from the Father. And, anybody who's promoting a country that thinks that, and a religion that believes Jesus is in semen and manure, anybody who's promoting a political system that prioritizes people who hate Jesus Christ is demonic to me. And Joel just wrote, about people who want to liberate, right? The woke right is anyone in any country who wants to liberate their nation from the chains of foreign oppressors who seek to prioritize individuals who hate them. And it's a very dastardly, it's basically the establishment's right's way of using the word Nazi. Like the left is like, oh, they're Nazis, don't talk to them, they're Nazis. These guys have intellectually been so dishonest and insincere that they stopped trying to debate and they sort of just got into name calling. And he said, the woke right doesn't inspire, they demoralize. They don't convince, they radicalize. Their whole project relies on you feeling as hopeless as possible and using as little of your brain as possible. It's a godless post-Christian mutation of American conservatism. Reject it. He says, we can save this country, we can defeat the left, we can win. It's interesting too, he capitalizes the left. That's weird. We can win. We can see spiritual revival in our lifetimes, and we can do it all without handing this country over to miserable, angry, functionally pagan lemmings who've lost their souls. So I responded to this and just said, so who we're up against. We're not just, to get our countries back, we are not just fighting against the left or the right. We're fighting against establishment people who have foreign allegiance. And there's a lot of similarities between Joel Berry, Seth Dillon, and let's say radical communists and socialists. They share a lot of the similarities in the fact that their desire is to hold on to power, to push their agenda, and that's at the expense of primarily white Christian people that have inhabited these lands. And the problem with this is it's like, they're coming at it from a different angle, but they're both trying to silence you, crush you. And when you bring up real problems, real complaints, they say that, you're cancer. You need to be killed, Seth Dillon says. You need to die, actually. You should shut up, right? We saw that same thing going on with Joel Berry when that young guy, Jeb or whatever, spoke to Glenn Beck, said that he was basically retarded, right? So what he called him, he said he was retarded for asking questions about the past. And I said, I just wrote this publicly today. I said, this is how the establishment dehumanizes their opposition. Look at this messaging against demoralized young Christian white men because they don't support Israel. It's truly become a mental fixation for Zionist radicals like Joel who want you broke, silenced, and ostracized. And I think that, what is the connection between Ireland, between Zionism, between all of these weird communist movements? The answer is simple. They don't want a strong nationalistic right wing centered on God, right? They either want a liberal democracy, a liberal socialism, a progressive communism, but they don't want a nation dictated by the native people of our white countries, led and ruled by Christ, by God our Redeemer. And they fight against that. And that's what this is about. So it's not about being anti-Muslim in Ireland or anti-immigrant or anti-Jew, or it's about being pro-Christ, being pro-God, and all also having pride in your heritage, having pride in your people, realizing that my children don't deserve to walk down the street and be raped by a Muslim guy. They don't deserve to be raped by a Christian guy either. However, adding more chaos is antithetical to God. Adding more disorder is antithetical to God. Inviting inbred people into your nation is antithetical to the nature of God. God is beauty, God is light, God is order, God is truth. And I think, you know, to Seth, Dylan, and Joel, I'll pray for your souls. You know, I pray for redemption. I pray that, you know, I'm not going to assume you're not going to heaven. I'm not going to believe that, you know, I'm not going to say your faith is fake. I have no position to say that, but I can say that, you know, you're really working with the devil in this world against good and against truth. You're really working with the devil to destroy the people who have a chance to actually protect this country, to protect the West, and to actually root out the left. The only people who have successfully gotten rid of the left, you're trying to keep them from positions of influence, positions to talk, and ultimately from positions to influence their world to make the changes they need. So, you know, we're not against you, Seth. We're not against you, Joel, but you guys are against us. And we're sorry about that, because it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you guys have positioned yourself against God and what could redeem a nation from darkness. And that's all I was going to say is, like, you know, we're fighting literal demons. Did you watch that video, by the way, Braden? I don't know if you have it in the script. It's on my page of that one guy from Ireland. You should see it, saying what the socialists and the communists were doing the night that girl was raped. It's like right on the front of my page.
I put something in there. It might be the same exact video.
The Champagne Socialists?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah. Can we play that? I just want to say this. This is what these people are doing, you know? While our country's dying, it's nuts, man.
See that guy there in the blue shirt? His name is Roger O'Gorman. He sent out tweets in 8 different languages, like what I showed yesterday on a video, in Somali, 8 different languages, asking people to come to Ireland, saying he'll give them a free house and free apartment within 4 months. After he sent those tweets, asylum applicants rose by over 400%. Watch this video. This is far leftists last night when the news broke that a 10-year-old child was raped by an African asylum seeker. This is what they were doing, and they are all directly responsible for it. They all support it. They are champagne socialists who never have to deal with the consequences. They all make a lot of money. They'll never be in these poor working class areas that are being injected with foreigners, but they'll push it on those less fortunate, the lower class. See that guy there? He doesn't know the own gender of his child. Look at them all. Disgusting people. And this is them supporting Catherine Connolly. This is them last night after a 10-year-old child was raped by an African asylum seeker. This is what they were doing. Celebrating themselves. That's Sinn Féin's leader.
We have come together from all sides.
When the news broke last night that a 10-year-old child was raped, this is after they were supporting these kind of policies. This is what they were doing. They were celebrating themselves. That's the kind of person these people are. Holding their...
That's exactly what we are dealing with, Elijah. You bring up a great point. I want to bring up another great point really quick. I'm derailing us a tiny bit, but a great point is District Copper's binational strategy, which combines its Canadian copper keg project with new U.S. assets, which positions it uniquely in our geopolitical landscape. Partnering with Reacher Gold, known for sourcing undervalued U.S. assets, aims to fast-track development and unlock near-term production. With progress at Copper Keg, a U.S. listing, and this strategic partnership, District Copper, listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange under CAXPF and the Toronto Stock Exchange under DCOP, could be the next big name for investors. Stock shows significant upside potential. Don't overlook it. Special thanks to District Copper for sponsoring today's video. Check the link in the description or go to districtcoppercore.com for more on the U.S. partnership and future prospects. Now, back to what we were just talking about in terms of, you have these champagne socialists, these people who will never experience what's happening in the West, whether that be in Ireland, with this specific instance, which is insane. This is Marie Antoinette's "Let them eat cake," right? That's exactly what this is. This is, where is Thomas Shelby, right? Where are the Peaky Blinders to come in? I know fictional, but you know what I mean. Like where are the good people who are willing to do things that are necessary, unfortunately, because they've been put in terrible positions? I mean, you look you look at the trend of everything taking place and what Elijah was talking about with actors, bad faith actors. And it's not that we sit and doubt somebody's faith in Christ. It's not that they don't try to love Christ, but you can tell. The Lord said it himself, you will know them by their fruits. And many of these people are producing bad fruit. He specifically, in I believe it was the Gospel of John, cursed the fig tree for producing bad fruit. That was specific. That was intentional. That wasn't just Jesus getting emotional and getting mad and cursing a fig tree. He was quite literally cursing it because it wasn't doing the job that it was created to do. It wasn't doing the job it was created to do. And so when you see people like this, and this is one of the greatest subversions of the American class, of the American, society as a whole, is the destruction within the church. You have the church effeminate, specifically within Protestant churches, but this is happening everywhere. Like they do have a little bit of with we were talking about it a little while ago, where there will be female altar servers, or someone will read. And as a Catholic, I don't like the female altar servers. I don't like when the women go and do the readings. They're not teaching. They're not breaking. Like it's not wrong, but I'm personally not a fan of it. However, it's significantly worse in the Protestant churches when you have these mega churches that just put on concerts. You have this whole idea of, well, it's all a feelings-based thing, and if it's as long as you feel good about it, then you're good to go. You have lesbian bishops. This subversion of Christendom has been the most destructive factor because the church has stood idly by and allowed this to happen. If the church were stronger in America today, and this is why it's on the rise, this is why young people, young men specifically, are joining the Catholic Church, are looking into the Orthodox Church and joining that too, right? Like, this is why they're leaving Protestantism for the hierarchical, the high church traditions. If those churches had been the bedrock that America was founded on, I have a suspicion that we wouldn't be in this predicament, because it would have been much harder to overthrow and subvert than it was with these Protestant churches we see today.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that in all churches. I don't think it's just the Protestant and everybody else. I think we see it in Protestant, of course. We also see it in the Catholic Church as well. I mean, in all fairness, you had the previous Pope who was pushing for migrants to come over the border, illegal invaders. You also had the time when he invited all the transgenders to come and have a big dinner with him. So we are seeing the pollution that is entering not only just the Protestant, we're also seeing the pollution enter the Catholic Church. But yes, I'm glad to see more people are going towards the Word of God, because everybody's frustrated. We are fighting a spiritual war. That's as obvious as can be. So the turnaround, especially in the youth, is great. I do wish these churches would follow more of the Word of God versus, as you mentioned, feelings or whatever else it may be, but stick strictly to the Word of God. I mean, we were given the manual. We were told, this is the Word of God, and that's what we need to stick to.
I know it's a derailing, but I do want to say what you like. I want to answer because I loved Pope Francis, and so I will say to great point. The Pope Francis was an immigrant himself, and this is once again not a condoning of it, mass immigration, not a fan of it. That was the one thing I really disagreed with Pope Francis on. He also, for anyone watching, did not condone illegal immigration, right? He wasn't like go sneak over borders. He said the treatment of legal or illegal immigrants could be unfair, and you can take that however you want. I disagreed with it. You disagree with it. I think a lot of people, even other Catholics, would disagree. I will say though, the drag queen one was tough because it took a long time for me to look into transgenders being invited to the Vatican. Like, what the heck is that about? And as Christians, it is our duty not to affirm sin, but rather show love to those affected by sin. Yes, so while we can go and say, yeah, I didn't really like that, I don't know if I would call it a subversion of the church to try to extend love to somebody who was, living in sin without affirming it.
We should definitely extend love. All the sinners, we want to bring them closer to God.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the goal, but it doesn't mean throw a big party and say, let's invite all the transgenders over and have a big dinner together and sit down and do it that way. There's other ways to bring people to God, not just kind of like a celebration of it.
But specifically not a celebration of them, right? Like that would be
it should be more focused towards, okay, this is what you're doing and the actions you're taking, because transgenderism is a disconnect from God. First off, it's a mental illness, but then also we're creating God's image, and what they're doing is they're altering the image. They're saying, I'm non-binary, I'm this, I'm that.
God, you were wrong.
And they guiding away from God. That's really what's happening. It's a step away. So I don't think that's something I was on board with. And there's other things as well, but it's not an attack on the Catholic Church, just like it's not an attack on the Protestant Church. But overall, I believe all the churches, we need to get a lot of it together.
There needs to be much more unity, much more strength. And I will say, I can't quote him exactly, but Pope Francis did say there's too much, F the gays in the church. Specifically, a quote. I can't say the slur on YouTube, but he did say that, so I give him credit. That was kind of based. I want to move on to the next topic.
All
right. We have a great one. It is...
Where that food at?
It is the Lake Worth individuals melting down over the EBT crisis. The food stamps getting paused. Shaniqua is going to have to work instead of using her food stamps to pay for her 3-inch long acrylic nails. Look at this.
My kids have not eaten in 5 days. It is the taxpayer's responsibility to take care of my kids.
Trump done cut them food stamps off. If you're poor, don't have kids, okay? If you're struggling, don't have kids. Don't bring more in. If you already have them, that's another situation. If you don't have them, don't bring any in. And if you have 2, don't go having another one. If you have 1, don't go having 2 more.
So they say 2 million is getting cut off this month for the stamps. I'm about to go find out if I'm in that number, in that ratio.
It's been day 5 and I have not received no food stamps. My disability checks is on hold. My cash benefits is not coming no more. They're still pending. It is the taxpayer's job to pay for my kids to eat and for my kids to be taken care of. I have over 2,000 followers on TikTok and I can't get not one person to send me 50 cents. If you're watching a video and you can't send me nothing, I'm blocking.
Yeah, this is...
She's got what looks like she's got her eyelashes did. She's got some fancy earrings. She's wearing a dress. Her weave's a little bit, not non-existent. But it's the taxpayer's job to take care. That's crazy. This was why the acts that were implemented to basically provoke divorce within specifically minority communities, because, if you had kids outside of wedlock or the father wasn't around, you would get money for it. That's why it was one of the most destructive things we ever did. But obviously it was completely intentional by certain people in the government, because they knew these people would breed like rabbits. They would create a bunch of little, Shaniquas and Tariqs or whatever, who would go and cause havoc on the world. And then they would just get taken care of. And I think the crash out over not being able to use money that isn't yours to buy your kids Frosted Flakes and Coca-Cola is well worth it, and I'm enjoying every second.
It's the entitlement that's crazy. They believe that we're supposed to take care of, their children, take care of all their problems, but yet unwilling to go to work. I know we have another video we can play as well, where this one guy's basically saying, like, I'm a boss. I don't work for nobody. You guys need to go ahead and you need to pay for, whatever it may be, the food, the housing. I grew up in low-income housing myself. Grew up in I was the minority in my neighborhood. And a lot of times what I found was that people would actually go out and they would collect the food stamps, then they would turn around and they would sell the food stamps. So this way they can buy weed, buy weaves, buy whatever they want. So they're selling their food stamps on the side. So you've seen a lot of that. One thing that also they used to do, and I saw a comedian talking about this. And also on the topic on that as well, is another thing they'll do is they'll pump out children. A lot of times, because then what happens when you pump out children, you get a tax credit at the end of the year. So really it's just a money game for them. They really don't, most of the time it's like, how can I capitalize by having as much children as possible? Then I'll just receive more government assistance, which is crazy. And as far as food stamps go, I seen comedians saying, he's like, where we really screwed up is when we started giving them cards, the credit cards. The EBT card looks like a credit card now. And the reason was because they used to give vouchers. So you'd have like this purple money, and then people would feel embarrassed to go ahead and hand over, their food stamp vouchers. So they're like, oh, this is bad. They feel embarrassed. We need to give them a card so they feel better. No. People should feel
embarrassed.
Yeah. I mean, yes, there's a time when we struggle. We've all been in points of our life where we struggle. But the people who are doing this on the regular, who are keeping it going, it becomes a generational thing as well. You have them coming out saying, my mom received food stamps. My grandma received food stamps. How dare you take these from me? There should be some shame in there, because a lot of these people are able to go out, able to get a job, able to go ahead and take care of their family, but they refuse to, because may they be collecting Section 8, key rings, the food stamps, and the list goes on and on. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of this welfare state. We need to get rid of this mentality that they could take advantage. And the sad part I always say is that we take care of people who are, able to go out and accomplish what they need to. And then you have those who are suffering. A lot of times the elderly, I think we need to pay more attention to, who could barely put food on their table, who are struggling with just a couple $100s a month, But instead we reward this type of behavior. We reward this type of actions.
Yeah, according to, I pulled it up here, the US government spending.com from the year 2014. This was 11 years ago, by the way. Average lifetime US budget impact of individuals by race. Whites contributed $221,000 over their lifetime on average. Latinos detracted $588,000 and blacks negative $751,000. So what are we talking? Like, this is reparations. Your grandma, your grandma's grandma, your grandma's grandma's grandma all got reparations. Maybe you should start paying me back because I'm getting taxed and you're the one who's benefiting from it. You're not paying taxes. You're not contributing to the system. You built America, then go build a career.
Yeah. And then what they're doing right now is they're taking to the internet and they're saying, okay, listen, if you do not give us food stamps, we're going to go ahead and rob a store. There was another lady who's talking about, you better have your house locked up. You better have your car locked because we're coming for those items as well. So, it's just crazy the mentality that they have. They're like, okay, listen, if you're not going to give me food stamps, then I'll cause destruction. I'll steal. I'll rob. How about you get a job? The job's much easier.
They can't help it. It's genetic. It's literally tribal instinct of I need something. I'm just going to take it by force. The same thing is happening back in Africa right now. The only difference is in Africa, they don't have weaves. They put cow dung in their hair to make it look nice and spike it up. That's the difference. The people
Tell me how you
here
really feel, Braden.
People here have long ass nails and weaves, and they're just gonna go rob from an Apple store to feed their family. In Africa, they'll just go rob from the neighboring tribe.
I told you this career is gonna eat your soul. Where's our good little Braden? Who's like, we're all God's creation.
We're corrupting them slowly.
It up and throwing the dung at the wall. No, it's true. By the way, I saw a document that came out recently in, I think, New York Times. That was like the star city of Africa, Johannesburg. How did it turn from one of the richest and metropolitan areas in Africa in 20 years into one of the highest crime, highest rape cities in the world? Well, it was run by blacks. I mean, look. People talk about what happens with Trump when you give him $1 million loan. Well, he turns it into a $4 billion empire and becomes president. What happens to the black community when you put $100 billion a year, by the way, into EBT? It's $100 billion a year. So when you give them $100 billion a year, they turn it into high crime. They turn it into Johannesburg too, right? High crime, high assault, whatever. It's what it is that we are keeping these people alive. That's the real argument. We are keeping people alive and we are maintaining their lives that we shouldn't have to maintain. That's my real argument. Is like, up to 80% of the food in Africa is imported, right? They used to produce their own food. Who used to produce their own food? Well,
the whites they killed.
South Africa still produces a lot of its own food, but it's predominantly, it's almost 93%, 94% white last time I saw farming in South Africa. The thing is like, look, blacks don't know how to support themselves, and that's not racist. Even President Nixon said, like, we can't really put certain blacks in power. Now, I was having an interesting conversation with my grandma. I'm at her house. She's a sweetheart. I absolutely love her. She doesn't have a racially discriminatory bone in her. Even today, we were talking about minorities because she's from Compton. She was talking about how she grew up in a black neighborhood and her father saved up money to leave. And she's such a sweetheart. She was saying, what you would expect someone from that generation to say, like, God, there's no ugly humans, there's no gross humans, there's no bad or good. We're all just humans, and God made us, and what you'd expect, right? Just a sweetheart, right? Just like your sweet grandma who just sees everyone as equal. And I was like, Grandma, that's true, I guess. Not really though, because well, let's be honest here. Like, I go. In general, no one wants to live in a black neighborhood. There's a reason why. We don't all act the same. And then my dad's like, well, I think it's politics and whatever. And I'm like, well, then why do they act like that in Australia? Why do they act like that in New Zealand? Why do they act like that in Africa? Why do they act like that in Asia? Why do they act like that in Europe? Like, I can keep saying, why do they act? I think, which is so everybody got the politics wrong. And then they always bring up the idea of, like, the minority complex of, like, the minority of the minority. It's called the minority square complex, right? Where it's like, okay, well, you have minorities, but then you have the little square. Like, what about the exponentially, vast amount of people apparently that are doing good? Well, it's really a small minority. I've always said that if blacks, about 10% of blacks have integrated very well into society, and those are not the ones we're talking about. But if you only get 10% right on a test, you didn't just fail the test. You might have to enter special needs programs because failure is a 59%, right? That's a failure. I guess it might still be considered it's a 59%.
Not at black schools.
So even if, yeah, exactly. But even if you have more than half, you're still failing. And I was telling them, like, look, at a certain point, you have to realize that my generation isn't trying to be racist. We're not trying to be discriminatory. We just, if we followed your guys' direction, we followed your direction. Gen Z did, millennials did, my generation. We followed your direction, and we're broke. We are podcasters, and we have no idea how to make it in the real world. Like as a white guy, I couldn't even make it. I have to be an entrepreneur, or I wouldn't be able to make it because I wouldn't get hired. The amount of people that email me that just can't get jobs that are young white men. My point is that our resources go to support these people, and then when we give them power, look what happened to Detroit. Look what's happened to every city. Look what happened in Maryland, right? Look what happened to what's that city in Maryland that where the bridge fell down? It's the one right
the
next
Indian
to DC.
crashed it.
No.
I forget the
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do
No,
too.
the black mayor. Oh man, how come I don't know this? This is so stupid. Anyways, you can look it up on your computer, but it's the biggest city, so I have no idea why I'm not remembering here. It's interesting watching the fact that these people are incapable of operating, and it's not just because of IQ. They're also very corrupt. They're historically not forward-thinking people, and they have the inability to govern themselves. That's why the most successful rich
Baltimore?
blacks we know. Yeah, Baltimore.
Oh, Brandon
the most
Johnson.
successful and
Yeah,
rich.
it was Francis Scott
blacks.
Keybridge.
That's it.
Yeah. But I'm saying the most successful blacks among us are, people that work in, Jewish or entertainment, right? They're still just like rappers and movie stars and and pastors, even like preachers. Like it's not, these people have never advanced. They're not advanced. And we have to accept the fact that anybody who cannot survive without us, that's not our own people. That money of not, they go, well, what, should we stop helping that, mom of 3 kids whose husband died? No, that money is supposed to go towards that. It's supposed to go towards, if I died and my wife ran out of money and she needs some help. The reason why socialism works in Sweden and it is starting to fail now. The reason why socialism worked in England, but it's starting to fail now, is because when the socialism is used for the social welfare of a homogenous group of people, it does actually work. But socialism without homogeneity will never work. And socialism without Christianity and selflessness will never work. So when you take God out of these countries, as well as interject millions of Muslims, you're going to get a system that's going to collapse. And what we're seeing right now is, look, $100 billion, that should piss you off. That should really piss you off. $100 billion. These people will starve. They would die. Their kids would die, or we'd have to go to war with them. If we cut off the money, we'd either have to have a race war or they would die. I'll take both options. Like maybe both are good.
I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on this next video talking about that.
Oh, yeah.
I think we have one here. Just this guy who says he's a boss and that we need to pay for everything.
It's true. He's such a boss.
I got an email from EBT. I used to get $740 a month for my 2 kids. And we not getting EBT no more. They took the EBT. They saying I got to work 20 hours a week. I'm not working for nobody. Get the fuck out of here. This is what Americans, taxpayer, work for us. They work for me. They got to help me feed my fucking kids. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be quitters now. Y'all been helping us all this fucking time. Now y'all want to tap out. Get the fuck out of here. I want my EBT, yo. I want my EBT, and I'm not working for nobody. I'm a fucking boss. What the fuck I look like working when the government is here to help? Come on. Y'all sent all that money to Iraq, Ukraine. Y'all funding all these wars. But when it's time to help the Americans, y'all don't want to fucking help us? I need my fucking EBT, yo. I need my money, yo. I need my fucking EBT. Stop fucking playing with me, yo.
A real
Thoughts,
easy,
Elijah?
real easy solution to this would be mass deportations, stop funding EBT, stop sending money overseas. We literally wouldn't have to tax people anymore. Like that was just, we would
I feel
just
like there should be a
avoid it.
time limit on a lot of these assistance that the government's giving.
Well,
I don't think it should be a lifetime thing unless like certain scenarios that, is approved. But, a
It
lot
should
of
be
these,
racial too, man.
yeah,
It should be racial.
Yeah. A lot of these times, these people, it just becomes something that, as you can see, the self-entitlement from this guy. Well, you guys, the American people need to work for me. You guys need to do this for me. And this is you know, I seen this all growing up. As I mentioned, very low income housing I grew up in. And you see the mindset of a lot of these people that they believe that they're entitled to it. They preach it. They're so happy about it. Unwilling to get a job. They think they deserve it, and it just has to continue. And that's not the case. So
here's my suggestion: $3,000. We give them $3,000 up front to get sterilized, men and women. If they take it, they get put on a registry. This is someone who is sterilized. They're immediately disqualified for any sort of like social EBT, whatever. They get $3,000 up front. They get sterilized. They're not going to have kids, which means they won't be taking EBT. They're on the list. So if they try to request EBT, we just know, okay, no, nothing for them. And then they're not reproducing. Then we don't even have to worry about them having, you know what I mean? Because his kids are going to grow up to be mad at the system the second that it gets taken away. His kids are going to grow up to be just like him because he's a bad father and he's setting a bad example. Whereas, you know, someone like Elijah, or Lord willing, I get married and have kids, we have to teach our kids, you need to work hard. You need to fight to earn your place in this world. These people are just sitting around going, you work for me. Where are the taxpayers? Give me my money. Like the level of entitlement, I'm down. Like, okay, Catholic perspective, God created everybody. God loves everybody. Everybody is equal in the eyes of God. In the eyes of humans, people are not equal. That's the truthful statement on the matter. People have a certain level of dignity that they attribute to themselves. If you have no dignity for yourself, how can I? And so with that knowledge, yeah, race war. Like,
yeah, there's no way around, dude. The thing is like, people have to realize that your benevolence, you know, the reason why boomers are so benevolent is because they grew up in a world where they could trust institutions. And so they don't get why the news would intentionally lie to them, or why the country would not be working in their favor, or even believe that the country isn't a country that they believe exists anymore. It's like, well, I wouldn't take advantage of the system, and these people probably need it because the only reason I would use these benefits is if I needed them. But in reality, that's not how other people work. And you don't realize that they're not Christians, and they're not white, and they're not from your culture, and they just view you as gimme, 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 gimme. And they don't know how to build. They don't even understand how to go through the Bronze Age or the Iron Age. They don't even know how to develop a society or a culture. Their ability to collectively reason is it doesn't exist. And so they just view you like we view God, where you're like, God, I need a miracle, God. I don't know how I'm going to help myself, but you can help me. They view you as a God. But due to propaganda, not only do they view you as a God, but they hate you. So they believe that you owe it to them, right? And if you don't owe it to them, they believe that you have it because it belongs to them. And that's why they'll beat you up, they'll stab you, they'll kill you, because they believe that you have what they're supposed to have. And the only reason why you have it is because you got it first. It's like steal the bacon, and you ran first and grabbed the bacon, and the bacon's yours now. But if ours was there first, then the bacon's would be mine. And it's like, that's not how it works. We went through collective hundreds and thousands of years of social and cultural enrichment, enlightenment, and development, and religious, subjugation and personal development to get to where we are. You just think it's a game of grab that, and it's really not what it is. However, we have these liberals which we have to deal with, and these Zionists who keep the liberal system alive because it protects them. We need to make sure that we deal with them first. Now, unlike Seth Dillon, I'm not going to say, let's kill them, because that's only language that extremists use. And so I'm not really an extremist myself, unless I'm off the internet 3 drinks deep. But actually, 1 water and I'm an extremist. No, but I'm not actually an extremist. Jokes aside, I'm really just here for a solution. And it looks like, I really think that the last chance for a global solution to minimize death was probably World War II. And now if there's a solution, it's going to be much deadlier than World War II and may more resemble like what people try to say the Holocaust was, right? Because I don't believe that was exactly, I think a lot of people have misinterpreted the past intentionally to mess up the present. I think whenever like there's a big war like that and it ends, a lot of rich, powerful people come in and they try to manipulate the information, the knowledge to take advantage of a broken people, right? Everyone's just tired of war, they're tired of death, they've all lost people, and people just want to live in a utopia. So they sold us a utopia, this idea that they could build it, they could bring civil rights in, they could change immigration, they could build this utopia. We'll never have war again, they told us. We'll never have to deal with the issues of France versus Belgium or England versus Germany, because we'll make all of our countries equal. Now, what they didn't tell us is that we wouldn't have to fight Germany because we're fighting a Nigerian on our own street. Like our daughters don't have to worry about getting raped by Russians because they're getting raped by Syrians in their neighborhood. So we've turned the wars to our streets, turned the wars to our states. We've turned the wars in the culture of our society. And the problem is that the people who control this have so much money, endless capital, endless money. So it pays to not really talk about this stuff. It pays, like Seth said, it's just like, we're winning. Well, yeah, because you guys have all the money and you're making it that people are not incentivized to speak the truth. In fact, if you speak the truth, your life is ruined. So you're winning, but like at an evil cost, right? You're dining with the devil, right? You're pairing with darkness and with evil because you're using power, coercion, blackmail, and money to hold on to a narrative. It's that nobody wants and that everybody realizes sucks. And I even wonder sometimes, like, man, maybe I should just like shut up, not said anything, just worked at Blaze TV and just went on the Glenn Beck Zionist wagon and just sort of just did a show. And I could by now I'd probably be making maybe like $500,000-$750,000 annual contract, maybe more, maybe $1 million, $2 million, and would be fine. Just live in a big house and could drink wine with my friends and do what I want. And I'm just like, you know what? But then I'd probably kill myself. Probably put a gun in my head and shoot my brain out because I'm not somebody who can live in a lie. Even now I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes. Yeah, I'm going through changes. It's a good song. But I'm going through changes because I realize that I can't live even in the lie of my flesh. Like I can't even live in the lie of sin. Like things that are dishonest, I can't live in. However, the majority of people love lies. And that's what you got to accept in all of this. I got to go in a second, but the majority of people love lies. They love to live in lies, and that's what Black people are. They're many of them are struggling with their IQ, and people have come in and lied to them and told them, you're a victim, you can never do anything to improve yourself, and we're going to solve your problems for you. And it's a God complex of the people who said that. And I also think there's some people who do it intentionally to keep dysfunction in our society to hold on to control. There's a lot of benefit to not helping bring about peace, and there's a lot of like they say, right? We haven't had a world war in many years because we are in the middle of a very long and drawn out world war where enemies are not killed by on purpose. They're raped and stabbed by accident on the streets, right? We're living in a world war against crime, against decay, against usury, against essentially the Zionist, hegemony. But that's where the war is at now. It's like we're in a Cold War. That's what I've always described. Since 2001, since 9/11, basically, we've been in a Cold War with the Zionist military-industrial complex. And it doesn't feel like a war because the war is not fought with guns here. It's being fought with guns other places, through proxy wars. But I personally think we're in a Cold War not against communism. We're in a Cold War against Zionism. However, that our country is Zionist, so we're a little bit less like Americans during the Cold War, and we're a little more like anti-communists living in Russia during the Cold War, right? So it's like we're kind of against our own system, and it's unfortunate. It's defeating, but I don't think we are like Joel Berry said, we're not trying to demoralize anyone. We're not trying to black pill. In fact, we're trying to give you hope, saying that if you go to the wall with God, then you still go with God. So I'll leave it at that. I got to sign out and give you guys thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Follow me at ElijahSchaefer.locals.com.
And Elijah, before you go, is that your old background to the side? I see.
Yes,
throwback.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But also, give me a second here.
Are you grabbing your menorah?
The menorah. There you go. Classic.
Here we go. It's official, guys.
Plus $7,000 right to the bank account.
I was hoping that would pop in the camera.
Let me work at Joel Berry. Let me work at Babylon B. Joel Berry. Let me work. Anyway,
that just got clipped.
High five, everyone. High five.
High 7, you mean?
Yeah, high 7,000 plus.
And we love the bear pants too.
Yeah, they're cute. It's even cuter when I'm not my whole family in Australia. They have this store that everybody buys family pajamas at because they still have a little remnants of white culture there left, that we don't really have in our society. And so they have like little family pajama things. It's actually really cute when I go to bed and wake up in the same pajamas as my son. It's kind of like a cute thing, you're like matched with your son, and you go, you got bears on your pants. It's like, no, you got bears on your pants. You're like, oh. We both got bears.
Brady,
so
you and
sure
Joey
do
do the
fun
same
things with
thing,
your
right?
family.
We do. You got to join us.
Yeah.
Mike just sleeps naked next to us. It's really awkward.
Yeah, I'm a free baller. I like to be free.
Yeah, well, We'll leave it there, and yeah, we'll leave it there. Also, don't forget too. There's some old, slightly offensive mugs here.
There we
Slightly
go.
thirsty for
Nice.
diversity. I used to sell these.
That's
Slightly
fire.
thirsty for diversity, and it has a black Barbie and a disabled Barbie on the side. So that was a really great cup there. Anyways, guys, I'll see you later. Appreciate it.
All right, appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Oh man, that was great. You know, I was just thinking about this. We're talking about diversity. I, for some reason, was thinking of like, you know, fictional characters and stuff. And so my mind popped over to Anne Frank, and I was like, there's probably a real life Anne Frank who's Mexican hiding upstairs in someone's attic now, hiding from ICE.
Maybe,
You know?
maybe.
I figured that was a great transition into the next topic. But
Yeah.
I wanted to say before we go, you know, it's really interesting. They when the Civil War was won, when they won the Civil War, you know, they won just like we won World War II. The North went in to help the South, and they realized that the minorities down there, that the slaves were so much of a lost cause that they just gave up. They just pulled out. They just stopped helping. And so a lot of black people will be like, look, they came to help us and shit, and we got nothing. And they, you know, then they pulled out. They abandoned us. It's like, no, you were so bad that you forced them to leave because they're like, oh my gosh, these people are going to kill us after we freed them. And like Elijah said, you know, it's like, well, there were good people. There are like Dr. Ben Carson. I wouldn't call him a Lake Worth individual. You know what I mean? Like he's a brain surgeon, right? Yeah, brain surgeon. There's Joel, what was it? Joel Webbin said, don't be friends with black people unless they're in your church or something. It's like, that's actually a pretty good, are you a Christian? Are you someone who like follows Christ? That's a great litmus test.
Yeah, it's a little tough. We definitely didn't win the wars. I'll stick with you on that one. Just before we get off the topic too, one thing I found interesting is, you know, for disability for these people, if you have ADD or ADHD, that counts as a disability. And you can get a disability check.
Don't all of us at the studio basically have that? Why are we
That's
not
just
getting
crazy.
checks?
It's like,
because we're
so a
not
lot
black?
so a lot of times when you see these people talking about, oh, I got disability, sometimes it's not like they're having like something really wrong with them. Like it's not like, you know, amputee, whatever it may be. It can be ADD, ADHD, which, as you mentioned, they pretty much said all of us have it when we were kids. I mean, that was the one thing, push all the drugs. The pharmaceutical industry did a big push, trying to get everybody on Adderall and all these other types of drugs. So yeah, it's insane.
So is that the same thing as like, oh, well, I got ADD, I got ADHD? Is that like the same thing as like the doctor going, yeah, your back hurts, that's why you need medical marijuana, right? Like,
yeah,
that was
pretty
it.
much. Pretty
oh,
much.
Your back hurts. Well,
yeah, I do
write
have
you a
bad back
check.
pain. That's why.
Golly, man, that's just stupid to me. But yeah, anyways, back to Spanish Anne Frank. There's you're the one who showed me this. The Democrats launching the master ICE tracker to track ICE agents and operations. I'll play the video and then I want to get your thoughts. ICE is facing over 1,000% increase in assaults. Democrats want violence against ICE, and we already know this, but like it's even more blatant.
I shared this with the mayor. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, the Oversight Committee will be launching on their website a master ICE tracker, where we're going to be essentially tracking every single instance that we can verify that the community will be able to send us information on. I shared this with the...
I know it's like he's just doing his job, but the guy throwing gang signs up to the camera, that was probably the funniest part of that video for me.
well, I've seen a video one time. I actually wish I had it. I don't have it here. When they were showing a comedian and he was talking about Democrats, and then he said retarded, and the hand movements were like almost the same when they were doing it. So, but makes sense. No, this is crazy. I mean, this is putting ICE agents at risk, but it's just another thing that the Democrats and many other are doing to protect illegals. I mean, we even seen, you know, they love to come up with apps. We had Biden come up with an app, how to get into the country easier. And now you have this app, which is tracking, you know, ICE agents so they can help protect the illegals. And nothing good is going to come from it, but once again, they love to put them first.
You know what I would recommend people do? Do you remember there was that first ICE tracker app? I don't know if it's still around. Maybe that's why they're doing the master ICE tracker. They're you know, promoting it, government officials and everything. What I think every single person watching this should do is download that app. And anytime you don't want to be around illegals, report ICE right where you're going to be.
If you're heading to Walmart, just hit it. Like, I don't suggest going to Walmart, but if you are, just hit it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not going to say that I did it because I don't know if there's any sort of like, you know, ramifications for false. Actually, no. It's They're reporting ICE agents. Yeah, I reported ICE agents all the time. If I went down to the mall to get something, or if I was going to the grocery store, I'd be like, yep, ICE spotted right here at Publix. Like, you guys better book it. You better get out of here. And it was so nice. The store was peaceful. There weren't like children's. I mean, there were a couple EBT individuals, depending on which store you go into.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you didn't have to deal with Jose jumping over the wall and going to your Publix.
Yeah, and Walmart might be a little different now. They just announced that they're not taking H-1B, workers anymore for a while. They're putting a pause on that, and then now with the EBT stopping, a lot of people from using their EBT card, I'm sure we're going to see it cleared out.
Miriam Adelson, what is she going to do? She's going to have to pay employees rather than donating to politicians. That's going to be a change for her. Oh boy, yeah, it's just so stupid to me. I mean, there was one of the comments on the video from it was like Trump Tracker, whose literal profile photo is 8647. And he's like, we don't want violence against ICE agents. And it's like, yes, you do. You're making apps to call... You promote people who attack them. You're making apps to track them. You're doing all of these things. You very clearly want it. I mean, he got massively ratioed in the post. Everyone's like, your profile photo is literally 8647. That's an assassination call.
Yep.
And he's like, have you tried crying about it? Once again, like 5 likes and 20 responses. It's like, dude, people are done with all these retards.
Yeah.
I pulled up another post here. Border Commander Greg Bovino accuses Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson of inciting violence against himself and ICE agents. Wait, I want to pause. You remember that video that went viral a couple days ago of like that black kid with all of his buddies and they had the sagging pants and the do-rags on? They're like, we heard there's a bounty on ICE agents. Y'all be ready to come or whatever. And the DHS
I did see
posted
that.
about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's happening. And that was, I mean, his username was something JIT, which is Florida slang. So I would assume he's in Florida. But he could have, I mean, it could be literally anywhere. The point is that you have the mayor unofficially, supposedly, telling his police officers
after
to
Beetlejuice,
stand
he
down.
took spot.
Yeah, it's to stand down and not go in and back up Border Patrol agents under attack.
And then when he got kickback from the Trump administration and everybody else, he said he was being singled out because he's black. So that was like another thing that he pulled the race card.
Yeah, well, they always do.
Yeah.
When the EBT card fails, the race card comes out next. That's the trade. But oh my gosh.
Constitutional. How do you respond to the Chicago mayor?
Yeah, Mayor Johnson is so out of touch with his inner city. We talk with the inner city residents on a daily basis. They're glad we're there. And as far as terrorizing, if you're a criminal, illegal alien, or an illegal alien, then you're going to go to jail and be deported. You have the opportunity to use the CBP Home app, free plane ticket home and $1,000. That's not terrorizing. That's giving folks a chance to do the right thing. If they don't do the right thing, we'll arrest them. And if Mayor Johnson equates that to terrorizing, then that's his fault for, as you say, Sandra, amping up that rhetoric, which often leads to violence against law enforcement.
Well,
but that's what they're doing. I mean, there's so many videos of do you remember the one video of like the 2-year-old kid being put in cuffs and they're like, this is an ICE agent arresting a child, and ended up just being like some black dad with his kid, and he's like, we're playing cops and robbers. Like, they take every single possible video and use it to, and if you are stupid enough, which is a lot of people, you see that and you go, oh my gosh, they're attacking this 5-year-old girl. They're attacking this elderly woman. It's like, no. Actually, that's not an elderly woman. You saw someone in a hoodie from behind who they told you was an elderly woman, but was actually a 20-year-old who carjacked and ran on a, took off from the cops. They were going to tackle him when they got out of the car. Like, it's so blatant, these attacks, and you know who's behind them, and you know the solution. You know how to fix this. I'm not the only one. I'm not a genius. I know how to fix these problems. I could fix them real quick if I just grew a little facial hair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, what I voted for was mass roundups. Unfortunately, I'm not getting that. I'm just getting mass money to Israel, so totally unrelated to what I went for. But yeah, I mean, thank God for a lot of the body cam footage, because a lot of times we're getting these times when they're like, oh, this lady was shot when she was coming out of her apartment by a cop. Then we watch the video and she's like chasing him down the hall, trying to stab him with a knife. And there's tons of other scenarios where we've seen that as well. I remember when we had the big push in New York City when they said that white people were attacking Asians, and then the videos came out and the people weren't white at all, and that story just disappeared out of the news. So yeah, a lot of these guys, they just go out, they play the victim card. It's their favorite thing to do, and I'm happy a lot of it's being exposed, and I would love to see more mass roundups. Unfortunately, we're not getting it. What we're getting is a repackaging. Yes, the border is closed. We don't have people piling over as much as before, but now they're trying to come up with ways to do it legally. Let's bring hundreds of thousands of Chinese students over. Let's go ahead and have an H-1B system and just have all these foreigners come into our country. So it's just a repackaging of the same nonsense. The problem is both political parties are they're in cahoots. If you don't think they are, if you don't think that they're having dinner after and enjoying their time together, that's just not the case. There's only a few people that I believe are America First, which is like Thomas Massey and a few, but that's really about it. Unfortunately, it's just two football teams. I know I say that a lot, but it's really just like we're the bread and circus, and we're just believing the bullshit that they're giving.
Yeah, that's it. And you have, like you said, they're trying to bring in more people. We have like 80 million people who are not legal residents of the United States currently within the United States. Probably more. Let's be real. And so, yeah, we're promised all this. And that's what people were protesting about for the No Kings thing. They're like, they're doing it unfairly. I'm going, they're really not doing anything. And what they are doing is legal. They're just making a spectacle of it because the people want to show. But they're not breaking any laws. 75% of Obama's deportations didn't have due process. Why are you giving illegals due process? I went to the No Kings protest with my girlfriend, and we were walking through with signs. They said, don't be retarded and deport all illegals. And one guy, tall, white dude, older guy, stops me to have a discussion. And he goes, he stops her first. He didn't see I was behind her. He's like, is crossing the border illegally a misdemeanor or a felony? And she didn't know. And I'm like, well, it's a misdemeanor, but it should be a felony. He goes, it's a misdemeanor. Yes. And I'm like, if you walk into my house, you don't get the chance to leave. I'm not going, oh, that was wrong. Get out. Don't do it again. You're on my property. It shouldn't be a misdemeanor to begin with. You crossed over willingly. That was your chance.
Yeah.
And so we got into this whole discussion of, immigrants built America and we need more of them here. And I'm like, no, we don't. We're full. There's a reason why I can't afford a house. It's because the Section 8 housing and all of the apartment buildings are full of subsidized immigrant living. And I can't afford it because they're competing with me and they're not even supposed to be here. And so you have this perpetuating cycle of, well, the Trump administration, they closed the border. They did. Great start. I want 1 million deportations by now. We're almost a year in. We should have been 1 million in easily. Do you know how many I could do? If I had a presidential pardon preemptively, I could get so many done so quickly. I give me a van and like 3 of my buddies, and we would do such a great job. But obviously, that's not what we want. We don't want to have high numbers. You have Operation Summer Heat, where the FBI went in and they found a bunch of illegal drugs and criminals and stuff. And they got like 27,000 people in 3 months. That was a big success. 27,000, like is a bunch of legal people, but felons, cartels, gang members. Like, okay, I'll take that. That's a great win. 30,000 people who are bad people in only like 3 cities. It wasn't like across the United States, 30,000 would be super low, but it was only a few cities and they had almost 30,000 people. That's great. Roll it out nationwide. Do it for the rest of the presidency. If you could average 10,000 people per city, 5,000 people per city per month, do you know how high your numbers would be? Even just that. And you'd be getting rid of criminals, illegals who got into the country. You'd be getting rid of gang members who are doing gang member things. You'd be getting drugs and guns off the streets. You'd be making it safe. Pull a Bukele. Do it. Do it. I dare you. Please.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we voted for. We voted for, that's what we thought too. They're like, oh, when we get in there, we're going to go ahead, we're going to remove all the legals, we're going to take care of the problem, but that's not the case. And the funniest thing is when you see all these influencers who post up videos like, got another one. We just caught this illegal. Trump's getting things done. And it's like, when you look at the numbers, no, he's not. He's not getting the job done. But what they want to do is they want to give you just little pieces that make you feel like something's being done when it's not. Yeah. So we need that. Go ahead.
I think people like Alex Rosen have caught more pedophiles than the Trump administration. You know what I mean? But I feel like this is a good time to wrap it all up.
Sounds
we don't have a local segment for you today, right? We don't. I mean,
today no.
Today no, but we'll probably do one Friday. I
sure.
won't be here, so you guys will have to do without me, unfortunately. But it's been a blast. This has been a really fun show. If anyone wants to follow me specifically, you can go to @BradenSorbo on X or any other social media platforms. You can get my book, Embrace Masculinity, on sorbostudios.com. You can follow The Rift right down below. Click subscribe. Make sure to go to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, and we would love some support on that. And that's all I got, Henny.
If you want to follow me, you can check me out on Instagram or X at snowflake_news. Love for you to come check out the page.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Braden Sorbo. This is The Rift. Peace out.